Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. Joining me, as always, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, Andrew Malcolm at AH Malcolm on Twitter, soon to become the new Andy Rooney of Bari Weiss's CBS News. I've just
yeah. Well, I don't think so, but
I think you and I do pretty good Andy Rooney impersonations. So
we do. Yeah, we're a good team after all these years. Yep.
See, Bari Weiss, if you want to reform CBS News, we're right here.
Another two former Times people reuniting.
You know, it's interesting. And look, I mean, I wrote a piece today. This is being recorded on Monday afternoon. It hasn't quite gone up yet, but it'll be up by the time you guys see this podcast. That I'm glad that Bari Weiss got this job. I'm glad that she that she got the big payday, right? $150 million for the Free Press. Just started this thing a couple of years ago. I love the Free Press. I think it's a great platform. It encompasses lots of different voices. It's rational discourse. I am a little concerned, though, that the acquisition of the Free Press by now, Paramount and CBS News might end up changing the Free Press more than it changes, CBS News.
Yeah. She's a piece of work in a wonderful way, and she had some standards. They were not being upheld when there was the big flap over the Tom Cotton op-ed saying we should use the Army in the city, which we're now doing with National Guard. So she left. Now, there was a lot of other turmoil around it, and I know she's not fondly thought of at the times, but so what? She had her standards. She was hired 2 or 3 years before she left. I think it was 2020 she left. She was hired 2 or 3 years before that to diversify the authors on op-ed. So she did. They didn't have many conservative authors, and she got Tom Cotton to do it. And the staff revolted. The editorial page editor was fired. And the publisher didn't back her up. And so she left, and she's having a wonderful payday for it. And more importantly, she's providing an alternate media outlet for people to go to.
Sure.
That's honest. It's a little pricey, but it's honest and open. And she really, like you said, she posts some really, really good stuff. She had an interview with Yossi Cohen, the former head of Mossad, who's got a new book out that I found absolutely fascinating. But I found Mossad, anything about Mossad is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
The stuff they've pulled off is just phenomenal. And I wish our people, well, I don't know everything our people do, but it doesn't seem like they do. The creative stuff that Mossad does. Of course, we're not faced with existential threats on all sides, so like Israel is. So anyway, yeah, good for her. She's still going to be in charge of the Free Press, but she's also going to be editor-in-chief of CBS News. Either one, I think, is a full-time job. So like you, excuse me, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have no inside information, but she's not going to be involved with daily assignments. But I think she is going to involve with imposing Ellison's more conservative. Actually, it's conservative because it's more fair guidelines on the news coverage at CBS. CBS, when I was beginning as a reporter in the 60s, CBS was the gold standard. They spent money if they needed to. They had the most creative, adventurous reporters. They pulled off exclusive stuff, and I was along with the other media, I watched in admiration. So, of course, now they're not, and Dan Rather was the famous episode. But
Right.
So there's change
see,
coming, and it's promising. Ed, you and I often talk about the media, but this is positive change away from the
so why?
cabal.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that there's an opportunity for this, but I feel churlish, right, for even saying this.
Yeah.
Because this is what we're talking about, bringing in fresh people, fresh perspectives. And I don't even need to have it be a conservative, just somebody like Bari Weiss who understands editorial balance and puts it in practice. So I'm great with all that. I just am not optimistic. Because
no, it's a huge job, but you are a churl, and
I am a churl.
So we kind of expect that from you, but if you don't try, it's not going to happen. And,
no, that's true, right? Yeah,
I'm hopeful, and even if she just makes incremental changes, it's for the best. And in that competitive world of TV news, it's going to force others to think twice about their little games.
Well, I think you're right about that. But I mean, here's the reason why my churlishness has come to the fore is that, we've seen this now at the Washington Post, which, by the way, today made more changes, right? Will Lewis kicked out more people. So they're trying at the Washington Post as well. I haven't seen it reflected in the product yet.
That's what my mother used to say. He's trying, very trying.
Yes. My wife says that about me. By the way, stop trying. Just do. This is actually a book from a friend of mine, Carla Andrasek. I just got done interviewing her on Relevant Radio, and I did a podcast with her last week. But because you mentioned trying, stop trying. Just get this thing done, please. So, Carla, there you go. Another book plug. They're trying at the Washington Post. They're actually taking action at the Washington Post, but it's not being reflected in the product yet. Patrick Soon-Shiong at the LA Times, where you worked for quite a while, he bought it a few years ago and has been talking about making changes to make it more reflective of a broader perspective. And I've yet to see anything really significant take place at the LA Times. Washington Post, at least we're seeing people being asked to leave, and they are leaving. And down the road, is that going to make a change? It might make a change, but I mean, you take a look at the Gallup poll. This just last week just came out, right? Gallup poll on media credibility, the lowest point in the 30-year history of Gallup asking this, or 40-year history of Gallup asking this question. Only 28% of the population has a great deal or a fair amount of confidence. That's a combined score, by the way. Great deal and fair amount, 28%.
Yeah.
Combined.
And Republicans is 7%. And Democrats is barely a majority, 51%. So you're absolutely right. I used to think, gee, how is the mainstream media going to reform and change to regain trust? And I don't think they can. This is like a serial philanderer asking his wife for more, for one more chance. Who would grant that? But what's happened, I think we have these beginning stages of change within the mainstream media. I don't think that's going to change the whole picture and radically adjust the confidence figures. But meanwhile, a whole host, including the website you run, Ed, a whole host of alternate information places have popped up. Now, not all of them are reliable, but the pressure of the competition, I think, is forcing, or at least it's offering people alternatives if they're conscientious enough to seek what was it triangulation of news sources,
Right.
and so it's tumultuous, but it's hopeful. And you're a churl.
And I am a churl. I'm a churl from way back.
A bald churl.
A bald churl. It's a word.
There's nothing worse than a bald churl.
A bald bearded churl. There's nothing worse than that. All right. So, but I mean, honestly, this is, yes, it's a good step in the right direction. What Jeff Bezos and Will Lewis are doing at the Washington Post is a step in the right direction. But it's the results haven't been promising. And look, when you're talking about CBS News, you're talking about hundreds of people, right? Not just the people who are on air, but the editors that are not on air, or on, the reporters who are writing. They've got good reporters. Jan Crawford's a good reporter. Jan Crawford is almost invisible there because she's a good reporter. That's part of the problem. There is a massive, what's the word, bureaucratic inertia that Bari Weiss is going to encounter almost immediately.
Absolutely. But the owner, but she's being brought in by the new owner. So I mean, I don't know how you can have bigger clout coming in.
It's true. And it really depends on how engaged the owner is. Bezos is becoming a lot more engaged. And I think it's because the staff tried to tell him how to run his own assets. Yeah. And what they tried to tell him was, you're losing $77 million, but the real answer here is stay the course.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Bezos looked at that and said, are you out of your minds?
Yeah. And you're out of your mind and you're out of here.
It kind of reminds me, and this was done humorously. Do you remember the old Mary Tyler Moore show? It was set in the Minneapolis, news station, right? Do you remember the finale of that episode?
No.
Okay. So the finale of the episode is they get the finale of the series, right? The finale of the series is the station gets a new owner. And the guy decides that he's got to look at this news operation and find out what the problem was. And he finally decides that the real problem is everybody but Ted. And he lets everybody else go except Ted. Lou, Mary, Murray, they're all gone. The only person he keeps is the dumbest of them all, right? So it's the irony.
That sounds like reality to me.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like reality, right? And look, I mean, I think that probably some of the people who have left the Washington Post feel that way, especially the ones who are leaving today. But you're right. Barry's going to have the backing of ownership, and that's always a good thing. But,
and she reports to him, not through some intermediary. So
that's true too.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully neither institution, the Free Press or CBS News, suffers. But you're right. Hundreds of producers, the people that are slyly editing tapes to leave out a keyword here and there. It's a big challenge, but she won't be involved. Well, I don't know. I think initially she'll be involved in what we used to call aftermath management, in which you have a disaster and the new boss comes in and says everything that was wrong with it and how everything is going to change. So it's not that you stop things from getting on, but you change the way things get on the air. That's what I'm thinking. But it's
when I was in corporate America, they called that the red team. And then they decided that red was a little too strong, so they called it the tiger team at the corporation I worked at, which was basically the people that they brought in when everything got effed up. so that they could find out who effed it up
Yeah.
and who needed to go find some time to spend with their families. And so yes. So this is we're sort of nibbling around some of the things that you wrote about this weekend, right? Because your latest column on Sunday was can Americans trust in media sink any lower? Yes, but there is a twist now. I equated this is getting back to the Gallup thing, right? I equated it to Chubby Checker's Limbo Rock and the line that says, how low can you go? How low can you go? How low can you go?
Limbo. Yeah. Well, you're right. The trust and confidence is even combined is worse than ever. They started this in the early 70s. They started polling, and it started out in plus territory but then it's just started to sink, and it has ever since. And since 2000, it's not been a combined majority of trust and confidence. And there has been, until now, there has been very little effort to change. In fact, bosses like the ones at the New York Times have caved. Now, my limited understanding of the new editor, Joseph Kahn, at the Times, is that he was brought in to change things. I haven't, to maybe moderate things, not change. So that's hard to do once you give the inmates keys to the cells. It's hard to come back in and say, you know what, you guys need to get back in the cells, and I'm going to lock you there. It's very hard to do, and Bari Weiss I think she knows that already. She came from there. So I wish her well. I wish them all well, and I wish people would go and read the column, because it has a lot in it about how things have changed over the years. And I was drawing on my 60 years of experience, most of it in mainstream media at both Times, New York and LA. But it'll never be the same. And, I'm not sure that it should be. The mainstream media was much more focused on accuracy. I know that from daily work in the newsroom. But it was pretty arrogant. They were, in those days, it was newspapers that ruled the news roost. If you listen to talk radio, and I think this is still the case in major cities, if you listen to talk radio on the morning drive time, they're all talking about stuff that was on the newspaper front page. And CBS, my understanding in the old days, which is 60s and 70s, CBS used to go by the front page of the New York Times in terms of its overnight assignments for what it wanted the next day. At least initially. Of course, things change, but so they were real powerhouses. And now, like I said earlier, there's so many alternate sources. Some of them are actually true. Some of the news things, some of them are partially true, and it takes a smart person or conscientious news consumer to get through it all. And I don't think many Americans are, just like they're not conscientious voters. And I think most people now get their news. They don't sit down. Like when my father came home from work, he sat down and he read the afternoon newspaper. And that's just not happening anymore. First of all, there aren't any afternoon newspapers mostly, but it's the variety, which is wonderful in a sense. The variety of news sources is amazing. And I think most people now get their news in pieces, in fragments. They see something online, maybe just the headline, and they take away an impression from that. They're walking through the living room, the TV's on all the time. They're walking through the living room and they hear one story, one anecdote, and that becomes the news to them. I don't think people sit down. I wish they would, but they don't sit down and say, no, for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to learn about what's going on in the world overnight. They don't. It's all episodic. What's the word? In pieces, fragmented.
Fragmented, yeah.
Yeah, they get little pieces here and there, and they form a general opinion. Sometimes it's accurate, right? You get an opinion that, boy, is Trump an active president? Oh, yeah. But most of what you hear might be that there's a lot of opposition to it. And there is, but he's overcoming a lot of it. So you're not getting the whole picture there. That sort of thing. I think people probably pay more attention to sports news than they do.
It's very possible because they care more about it, probably. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
And that brings us to the shutdown, right?
Yeah, they make an effort.
This brings me to the shutdown. This is your other article, which was, it'd be nice if Congress actually did what members get paid big bucks to do. Yeah, it would be kind of nice if they did their jobs. But honestly, one of the reasons we got polling that basically says it's a pox on both houses, and I don't blame people for feeling that way. But honestly, how many people do you think are sitting in their living rooms right now going, gee, I wonder what's going on with the government budget right now? And, no. I mean, these are inside the Beltway fights. They don't really matter until it intrudes on your life in some way. Otherwise, Chuck Schumer is calling, John Thune a duty face. John Thune is calling Chuck Schumer a duty face. Nobody really cares because they don't really have any stakes in this stuff anymore. They got a stake in, I don't understand how you can have a stake in the Cleveland Browns, but I mean, I guess a few people do, but it's a...
Wait a minute. I'm going to have a shutdown here. No, you're right.
Maybe I'm just being churlish.
You're right. Well, no, and because so much of the shutdown has been excluded. I mean, if people's Social Security checks were not going out, then this would be an important shutdown that a lot of people would pay attention to, or Medicaid, or Medicare. But they've excluded that, like they've excluded so many people from paying income tax. It doesn't become as big a deal anymore. And Trump is using it as a threat and as a way to reduce the number of people in the government. And a lot of people say, well, that's a good thing. So the shutdown isn't bad. And it's a game. It's like raising the national debt limit. These things go on, not necessarily shutdowns. I think we've had 10 in the last 30 or 40 years. But these confrontations, these last minute things, and the Washington media, it's their job, so they cover it minute by minute as if it really matters. And oh my gosh, and I've got this scoop. It's not going to happen at midnight. It'll happen at 12:04. I mean, it's their world, and they think the rest of us care. It's like reading the Washington sports coverage. They think people care about the Commanders or the Nationals or the Yankees. They don't. But they feed it out to us, spew it out to us as if it does. And I don't know about you, but I just dismiss it. I'm not inclined to be interested in it, and I'm not inclined to read a lot of this crisis coverage, this minute by minute. Oh my gosh, there's only hours left. What are they going to do? It's, in my cynical mind, it's designed to get more clicks before midnight. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you talk a little bit about the evolution of how members of Congress live their lives, right? Now, I would say that they're spending more time back home than they used to. They used to really just live in the DC area. And I think that one of the benefits of the internet age was discovering how few times your congressman or senator actually went back to your state. We're still seeing that, right? Adam Schiff is claiming, his primary residence is in Maryland, right? He's a senator from California, and prior to that same seat, Gavin Newsom had appointed somebody to fill out Kamala Harris's
term.
Was it Kamala term, right? I think it was Kamala Harris's term, who hadn't lived in California in at least a few years, but still had a residence. It was like, until you could hold a special election, that's when Padilla got elected. So maybe it was when Dianne Feinstein died. I think that's what it was. And it was ludicrous. It was a ludicrous appointment. But for the most part now, they're trying to get home more often than they used to. But still, this disconnect that you see here is one of the reasons why, and you argue this in this piece, one of the reasons why the shutdown stuff just doesn't land is that American public doesn't really have stakes in this, other than just it contributes to the contempt of Congress because they can't even do the one job that they're constitutionally required to do, which is to pass a budget on time every year, which is about the easiest thing that Congress should be able to do.
And it's not that they can't get it done, it's that they won't get it done.
Right.
Because they're playing to the base. Seriously, why did the Democrats defeat the continuing resolution? The continuing resolution said, we're just going to keep spending for another 7 weeks at the same level as we are now. And they said, no, we're not going to vote for it. For some reason, you need 60 votes instead of 51. We're not going to vote for it because we want to extend subsidies for Obamacare. Well, listen, that's not that important, but it is to their base. They're playing to their base.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care about Obamacare. A lot of people don't care about Obamacare, but they want to have a fight so that they can say we're fighting for Obamacare, to preserve Obamacare, because these people, these vandals, are trying to ruin it for you. When in fact, all the Republicans said was, we're just going to keep going and keep negotiating, which is not a bad thing. I don't know why they can't get it done now, why they need a deadline, like they need a deadline on the national debt. They're going to raise it, so it's just a question of when. But they want to play through the media, and the media plays along with it because, it's a big story that'll draw a lot of people to click.
Yep. Yeah. No, you're right. It's kabuki theater. It's always been kabuki theater.
Kabuki theater. Yeah. I went to one of them one. Some of those kabuki plays go on for 2 days. I'm serious. The cast changes because they get tired. And so you will find out, this old play is playing on Wednesday and Thursday, but I only like the 32nd act, so I'm going to buy a ticket and I'm going to go on Thursday morning to see
Good
those
Lord.
2 hours. Those 2 hours. No, these things are they're not endless, but they do go on for a couple of days. I went to one once, and it seemed like a couple of days.
Oh, well, there you go. All right.
But it had
Kabuki
something
theater.
to do with me not speaking Japanese much.
Yeah. Well, that's Congress for you. They don't speak English either, and it goes on forever. This thing's already going on 6 days. So, and they just held the vote. It just failed as we're talking about this. So they're going to do it again tomorrow, and it'll fail again tomorrow because until they start actually laying off tens of thousands of people, I don't think that the Democrats really have any reason to stop. So I guess we'll see, but this almost precludes the need for the jokes of the day. But I've got a couple, but
I don't, but you go ahead.
All right, I got a couple for you. I got a long one and a short one. I'll give you the long one first, okay? So a man's driving home from work one evening, and he realizes that it's his daughter's birthday, and he forgot to get her a gift. So he pulls off immediately, goes to the nearest toy store, and says, "How much is the Barbie that's in the window?" And the sales clerk says, well, we've got several Barbies. We've got Barbie goes to the gym for $20. We've got Barbie goes to the ball for $20. We've got Barbie goes shopping for $20. Barbie goes to the beach for $20. Barbie goes to the nightclub for $20. And we've got divorce Barbie for $265. And the man says, wait a minute. Why is the divorce Barbie $265 and the other ones are all $20? And he says, well, look, divorce Barbie comes with Ken's house, Ken's car, Ken's boat.
That is a good one. Thank
you. You're right. So short one here.
Yeah.
Short one. Man's going golfing, decides to take his nephew. His nephew's in elementary school. His nephew always wanted to caddy for his uncle. And he says, well, his uncle says, you have to count strokes, right? He says, oh, no, I can do that. So he says, all right. The uncle says, well, how much is 6 + 9 + 8? And the nephew thinks for a moment and goes, 5. And the uncle says, great, let's go.
Yeah. I just remember, I have a golf joke too. Okay. So these two old guys are playing golf. And on the 9th hole, the one guy stops and takes off his hat, puts it over his heart, and he's quiet for a minute. And the other guy says, what's going on? And he says, well, after 30 years of marriage, it's the least I can do during the funeral.
There you go. All right. Golf is more important. All right. Drew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, the regent of redstate.com. Thanks so much for another great podcast. And we'll be back again next week for more.
Okay. Thank you, Edward. Thanks, everybody. See you then.